Welcome to ICANN81, and today we have Abdulkarim. He's a renowned lecturer in one of the African universities and one of the community leaders who is serving as a mentor. So Abdul, I have a question for you. What is ICANN, and how does the multi-stakeholder role model governs the whole community, and what are your thoughts about should it be more multi-stakeholder or not?
Okay, thank you very much. Like we know, ICANN is Internet Corporation of Assignment Members, and one of the important pillars of ICANN is it being a multi-stakeholder organization where people from different stakeholders come together in order to reach a decision or in order to influence what is happening within ICANN itself. Multi-stakeholder, when it says multi-stakeholder, it means everybody who has a stake coming together. And yes, the model is a model that's actually been adopted, but it's a model that it has its own advantage and disadvantages. And a lot of times when you look at the multi-stakeholder model, it's a model that a lot of us agree with, but the implementation of the multi-stakeholder model sometimes can be problematic. In terms of voice being lost in the multi-stakeholder process, in terms of the multi-stakeholder model not really serving the purpose in some of the occasions, because you find out that yes, it's not something that works all the time. And that needs to be the multi-stakeholder model. I totally agree with the model, but however, there needs to be improvements in the model. There needs to be checks and balances to ensure that voices are not being lost within the multi-stakeholder model, and to also ensure that everybody is being carried along, that all stakeholders are actually being carried along. And I believe that would make a lot of improvement in us having a truly multi-stakeholder model.
Okay, so I have a question for you. The definition of multi-stakeholderism and the values of multi-stakeholderism practice, these two things are completely different things, right? So what do you see, especially in our community, I mean to say the ICANN community, we are also here in ICANN81. So how do you see as a leader in the community, the definition itself is there with the ICANN.org, implementing it, things. So how do you see the practice, the values? Do you feel it is more encouraging, or what should be done? I mean to say maybe we need more fresh blood, maybe things around that. What do you feel about that?
Thank you. I think the internet should be one world, one internet. And when we're talking about one world, one internet, it means we need to make sure we're one. We need to come together as one to ensure that we have one internet. So when it comes to the multi-stakeholder model itself, the definition of multi-stakeholder, yes, it's something we all do agree with. But in practice, the multi-stakeholder process is not that it's not doable, but a lot of times you find out that we as human, we always find a way to ensure that things are not really working well when we don't want it to work well. So I would say that for the multi-stakeholder model to work, it needs us to adopt exactly what the internet is based on. The internet is completely based on trust. When you look at the layers of the internet, it is completely based on trust. That one layer of the internet is actually trusting the next layer, okay? And sometimes you need to have feedbacks. But within the layers, you would say that it is entirely based on trust. And that's exactly what the multi-stakeholder model should be based on, whereby everybody will be able to trust each other. And for you to trust each other, then everybody must have their cards on the table. It's not a situation whereby some would say, oh, you know what, this is this, when it's actually not that. And in terms of trust too, we need to trust one another. We need to ensure that the internet is doing exactly what we want it to do. And those of us who are stakeholders within the internet ecosystem are also being effective stakeholders. And that is my belief.
Okay, so last question. I have stored the last one, the better one for the last. So what would be your suggestion, especially for the community, to make it more rich, more better, and more engaging? Because still today we feel there is a gap of the youth coming in, the different other stakeholders group coming in. So what would be your suggestion? How can we make this more open and collaborative in terms of the world? Because the next billion is coming from Africa. So there has to be a certain approach to that community, to reaching out to your community, so that it comes and we could collaborate in a way where we can develop, like the way you said, one internet, one world.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that, first of all, people have to continue the discussion. This is a discussion that has to continue. It's a discussion that people have to contribute towards. There is no right or wrong answer. We need, especially the youth, don't be shy. Come up, have this discussion, especially with the older generation. You need to sit down, explain some of these things to them, and also so that the older generation will be able to understand the younger generation. There has to be that balance. That's the first thing. The second one is there has to be commitment. Commitment from everybody in order to ensure that we have one goal. And that one goal is for the internet to be truly universal. For us to have that one goal, we need to ensure that we have a balance. We need to make sure that we carry everybody along. Along the line, we need to resolve whatever problem we have amicably in order to ensure that we reach our goal. And finally, it is also important that each of the stakeholder group, do not feel that we are much more important than the other. Every stakeholder is actually as important as the other stakeholder. And we need to ensure that we need to do the right thing. Most of the times, when you have these stakeholder groups, some of them, the leadership, when you have leadership problems, it's something that has to be looked critically into to ensure that people are being carried along. In order for you not to lose people who are ready to contribute to the ecosystem, it is very important to ensure that you have a checks and balances in place so that everybody will have their voice. And we need to ensure that in order for us, when you're putting in place these checks and balances, it has to be objective. It has to be to ensure that we have a common goal for us to ensure that we have one world and one internet.
Thank you for this enlightening words and giving your thoughts out to the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shidrip. Thank you for inviting me.